minutes after the hour. Thank you so much for joining us on Catholic Connection here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Dave Palmer in for Teresa Tomeo today. I'll be on tomorrow and Wednesday as well. Teresa will join us tomorrow morning at the top of the hour again, and then she'll be back on the air Thursday morning, God willing, once she gets back from Rome. And let me ask you this. When is the last time you went out into the streets, so to speak, and talked to people, strangers, about your Catholic faith? For most people, it's probably never, and it was certainly the case for me up until about 2 weeks ago when I went out with a group of men and women in downtown Dallas at a park and set up a table and handed out rosaries and talked to people about my Catholic faith. It was a fabulous experience, and so I was really excited to have the national director of the St. Paul Street Evangelization Apostolate, Steve Dawson, on the air with me. His website is streetevangelization.com, and he joins us now. Steve, thanks for being with us this morning. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, again, I want to thank you for what you're doing. You know, I've always, years ago, I heard Tim Staples, or one of the apologists, say, you know, if you see two, well-dressed young men walking up your sidewalk to knock on the door, I mean, very, very rarely are you going to say, oh, here come them Catholics. And so I guess maybe you're going to kind of change that with people are going to get used to seeing Catholics out and about. But let me start off, just ask you the simple question. What is St. Paul Street Evangelization?
Okay, yeah. St. Paul Street Evangelization is a grassroots, nonprofit organization dedicated to responding to the mandate of Jesus to preach the gospel to all nations by taking our Catholic faith to the streets. So what's different about us, so basically we're taking the Catholic faith to the streets. We're out there and we're talking to people that we've never met before in public about the Catholic faith. And what's a little bit different about us than you might have experienced before about or seen people doing evangelization, maybe Protestant evangelization out on the streets, or what you might see in the news, is we're completely non-confrontational. We don't stand on soapboxes or speak out of loudspeakers. We don't try to make anybody talk to us if they don't want to. So we're just out there and we're making ourselves available. We got a little sign and it says Catholic Truth on it, and it says, if you have questions, we'll answer them, and if you'd like prayer, we'll pray for you. And we just set out there quietly, very, non-obtrusive, and as people walk by, we'll just offer them rosaries, and that starts conversation. So it's absolutely amazing, and not in my wildest dreams would I have expected to have happened what has happened, and it's really amazing, Dave.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. Pope Francis yesterday spoke at his Sunday address in Rome, and it was interesting because I think it ties in so well, talking about, the first reading yesterday at Mass was about the apostles being told by the Sanhedrin not to preach about Jesus, and they said, we must obey God and not men. Pope Francis said, the apostles' example teaches us that when a person truly knows Jesus Christ and believes in Him, one experiences His presence and the power of His resurrection in one's life, and one cannot help but communicate this experience. And so I think it's important because Jesus has mandated us to do this, and if we, it's difficult. I guess that's the problem, is that what we're being told to do and what we really should do is difficult. Why do you think it's so difficult for so many people to do this?
That's a great question, and before I started doing it, it was difficult for me as well, and the first couple times I did do it, or maybe the first time, just getting out there was difficult. And I think that might have something to do with our culture and our mass media, and this idea that our faith is a personal matter and that we should be keeping it to ourselves. And I don't know what it is. This is, in the Catholic tradition, all the way back to Jesus, Catholics have been taking their faith to the public square. We see this in Acts of the Apostles with Paul and Peter going out and even going door to door from house to house, they say. So, and then throughout history, we have the great religious orders, or like the Jesuits, or, St. Francis. He would go out into the public and speak to people. So I'm not sure exactly when it happened, or when it happened, at least in the West, but we've kind of lost this, it seems. At least it seemed to me. I'm sure there are Catholics out there somewhere, taking the Catholic faith to the streets and talking to people about it. But for me, I had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first time I got out there, it was a little bit scary because it was just an unknown thing. But as we started doing it and finding out how easy it was and how receptive people were, it was just like, wow, why haven't we been doing this before, you know?
Yeah. And just in case people think you have to be perfect or the most knowledgeable person in the world to do this, I was interested in reading a little bit about your bio. You came from a pretty dark place to the point where you are now, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I had a pretty powerful conversion about 10 years ago. And prior to that, I was in a real dark place. My mom was Catholic, raised Catholic, but she had fallen away from the faith. And so I had never really learned about God in my childhood. And I got into drugs and crime and, all those nasty things. But my mom came back to the faith, and she was praying for me, and she was talking to me about the faith, and I didn't want to hear it. So I had started researching because I was miserable, and I didn't really know if God existed, and I was really at a place where I might have committed suicide. But one day I said, all right, God, if you exist, you're going to have to show me. So I just started praying and researching, and from there, I really got to learn the faith, and so I learned by myself. And it wasn't like I'm a professional apologist or a theologian or anything like that. So a person who just has a heart for Jesus can really talk to others about the faith. And it's, you just learn a little bit more every day, and it's really amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steve, let's take a break because we've got a whole other segment with you, and I'm sure there's some folks that may want to call in and ask some questions. StreetEvangelization.com is the website. Steve Dawson is the National Director of the St. Paul Street Evangelization Apostolate. You may be surprised that this is less than a year old, and you also may be surprised just how fast it is growing. We'll talk about that. Also, how you can get a chapter started in your home city. Perhaps there's already one there, and you can get hooked up with those folks. But we'll talk about that when we come back. Phone number 877-573-7825, 877-573-7825. We'll have more Catholic Connection in just a moment. All right, we're back. 11 minutes before the top of the hour. We're down to our last 8 minutes or so with Steve Dawson, National Director of St. Paul Street Evangelization Apostolate. I was just telling Andrew, the producer, I said, Andrew, I'm surprised we don't have any phone calls. And about 10 seconds later, he said, Dave, every single line is busy. So we're going to get to some calls here in just a moment. Once he has a chance to screen these, the website for Catholic Street Evangelization. Can you imagine putting all those words together? Doesn't that sound great? StreetEvangelization.com. Steve Dawson, as I said, is my guest. Steve, I mentioned before the break that this started less than a year ago. Just how much has it grown? How many different groups are actively evangelizing across the country and the world?
Yeah, so when we started this, it was just myself and some friends. I picked up the phone and I called a few friends of mine. And I said, I have this idea. We got to do this. And, they thought I was crazy, but they loved the idea. And we went out in Portland, Oregon, one of the most unchurched cities in the nation. And we just set up. And we were so shocked at the response that we were getting from people. There's this great desire for truth. People are lost, and just through conversations, we were just shocked. And what we started doing was posting photographs of what we were doing. And, it wasn't my intention to start this and, spread across the world and become a huge apostolate. I was just trying to do something local. And since that time, we're now international. So we have over 50 chapters in 3 different countries, from Oregon to California to Texas to Michigan to Washington, D.C. We're all over the place. We're also in the Philippines and Australia. So, we really believe that the Holy Spirit is behind this, is driving this, is trying to give Catholics a concrete way that they can share their faith with others. And Catholics are just getting in touch with us. All it takes is for them to hear that we're out there and they want to be involved. So it's awesome.
All right, 877-573-7825. Let's take a couple of phone calls. Nasa from Harrison Township, Michigan, has a question for Steve Dawson. Hi, Nasa. Thank you for calling.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
Good morning. I heard that you studied after your conversion, just before and after. Did you ever feel like you had to evangelize to maybe a priest that you heard a bad homily from, or other Catholics that are maybe cafeteria Catholics? Have you ever done much of that? Because I seem to come across more hostility from Catholics that don't want to explore more of their faith than non-Catholics, really.
Yeah, that's a really great question. When we started doing this, we thought that the primary thing we'd be out there doing was having conversations and debates with atheists and with Protestants who had really deep objections to the faith. But what we found was that we were really having our most fruitful experiences were with those people who were Catholic, but who were uncatechized or who didn't really know their faith. And so today I really see our primary mission as reaching out to the fallen away Catholics. Yes, we're there to reach out to the atheists or to the culture in general, or to clear up misconceptions with Protestants. But primarily we're out there reaching out to the Catholics, bringing them back into the faith, talking to them about the need for a relationship with God in their life, and confession and all these things. So prior to this apostolate, yes, absolutely, I would run into Catholics who were uncatechized or who were lukewarm, I would say. Mm-hmm. And, it's the people you know in your life are the hardest to evangelize. So you have to be gentle and you have to love them and lead by example. That's what I would say.
All right, Nasa, thanks. I want to get to one more call. Valerie in Maine on line 4. Valerie, thanks for the call. What's your question for Steve Dawson?
I'm telling you right now, it's a godsend, because I've been wondering what I can do. I live in the most secular state in the United States, and Portland is really bad. I have been treated as a villain because of my faith and because standing for traditional marriage. I even I did a news article, and somebody came in and took a baseball bat to my mailbox, and so then I don't know what to do. I feel like we're so fragmented at this time, and I'm just thirsty for knowledge on how I can do this. I've been praying all weekend long, and Mr. Dawson, any information you can give me to start something, I want to do it.
Absolutely. So you're not alone, first of all. We have set up through our organization, one of the primary purposes of our organization at the national level is to provide the tools and the resources and the training for ordinary Catholics, not theologians or apologists, although we'll take you too, to learn how to take the faith to the streets and to provide you with everything you need to do that. And in a lot of cities, there's already teams set up. So, but one of the things that I encourage every Catholic, not just a Catholic who wants to go street evangelizing, to do is to get on our website and enroll for our online training. Okay. We have training courses that are being built. The first course is out there and can be taken, and I think it's important for all of our evangelists to be on the same page. So we've set up training, and we give certifications and with monthly updates and videos, and they're short. And you don't need to be an expert in the Catholic faith to pass these or to learn about your faith. So we just encourage every Catholic to come to our website and look through it and go through our training and join us. Absolutely.
All right, Valerie, thank you so much. That website is streetevangelization.com. Paul on line 1, you got about 20 seconds. I know Paul. I want to get him on. Thanks for calling, Paul. Real quick if you can.
Hey, Dave, I'm the Dallas guy, and I just want you to talk about your experience with us and tell Steve about it.
Oh, okay. I only have about 10 seconds, but I did go out to downtown Dallas, and really, everything Steve is saying, it was non-confrontational. We had some great conversations with people, and it's if you feel the warm fuzzies going out there and spreading the good news. So Paul and some of the others here in North Texas are doing a great job. So, Paul, thanks for the call. Steve, thank you, and I hope a lot of people visit your website, streetevangelization.com. Appreciate you being on with us today. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. God bless. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo. Our producer is Andrew Kruchek. For copies of this program or for more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net. That's AVEMariaRadio.net. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another edition of Catholic Connection as Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness.